great to see a full room. We always get excited when the audience exceeds the number of speakers, so we're well beyond that point today, which is great. Thank you for that. So welcome, good afternoon. We're told that there is 27,000 HE institutions in the world today. Now, obviously 120, 140 in the UK, but in this world of vast choice, I guess my question to you would be, why should a young person or a parent choose your university over another? And why is it that if I'm at a social occasion and I'm chatting to somebody for the first time and they're an Oxbridge or a Russell Group student, that somehow they find a way of weaving that into the conversation in the first 5 minutes that we've met? The answer, of course, is something around institutional reputation, something to do with status and reflected glory. So if I can get you to put your hands up, please, if you went to university, yeah? So almost the whole room. Keep your hand up in the air if you went to university less than 20 years ago. Okay, and how many are we left with if we say less than 10 years ago? Dare I say less than 5 years ago? Okay, keep your hands up, keep your hands up. These people with their hands up, ladies and gentlemen, they are the young ones. Yeah? The truth is that even these children, you can put your hands down now, even these children who are trapped as they are in babies' bodies, even they would probably struggle, I think, to remember precisely what it was like to choose a university. Yeah, why did they choose one? Or why, in fact, today, would a millennial choose your university over another? As Marcoms professionals, I think we get overly excited about, well, specifically graduate recruitment rankings and university rankings in general. In fact, there's a whole industry, isn't there, that's grown up around rankings, awarding them and measuring them. Here's an article published a couple of weeks ago which reveals, maybe unsurprisingly, that 15 of the top 25 institutions with the best graduate recruitment stats are Russell Group universities, with Durham, Warwick, St Andrews and Lancaster at the top of the table. But fascinatingly, less than a month before, the same publisher released an article describing a new piece of US research that implies, and I quote, graduate outcomes data has no impact on student choices. So do rankings matter? Do they or don't they? The reality is that they matter to VCs and they are being used in your maybe performance reviews, then yes, frankly, they do matter, don't they? Clearly they're a factor that are considered by some parents and some students, particularly in an age of tuition fees and rising student debt. But university reputation, which is what we are here to talk about, is way more complex, I think we'll all agree, than graduate employability rankings. The three most important factors for choosing a university are reputation, location, and employment prospects. Of those three, the easiest one to measure and the hardest one to change is obviously location. Yeah, we are where we are. Then we look at employability stats. Those are tricky to measure, but we're managing to do it. They're hard to influence, but we're all chasing that tail. I think that the most interesting and the most important one is the softer one around reputation. The reputation of your university is the sum total of all the meanings that all your audiences hold in their heads and in their hearts about your institution. It's everything that they think, feel, hear, say, read, watch, imagine, suspect, or even hope about your institution. That's what your reputation is. And it's just another way, really, of talking about your university's brand. Brand and reputation are almost synonymous. So we have reputation, location, and employability prospects. I'd like to add one more under-recognised reason for choosing a university, and I'm going to call it the "it just felt right" factor. It's the emotional element. And we've all done it. Maybe for you, I don't know, choosing a university is maybe too distant a memory, certainly is for me, but how about choosing a house? Thinking back to the last property that you bought or rented. Put your hand up, please, if the moment you fell in love with the house or flat that you bought was when you saw this, the property's energy performance certificate. No hands. How about it? Was it the surveyor's report that did anybody? No. Okay. What about some people maybe put their hands up at this stage when they read the estate agent's details? Yeah. Was that even that? I would have expected maybe one or two. So probably for the rest of us, it was either a first or second hand viewing. Yeah. Yeah. Lots of nodding and yeah. Okay. So that was the clincher. We'd done our homework on the reputation of the area and indeed what living there might say about us. We knew what our budget was, our commute to work, how many bedrooms we wanted, the size of the garden. We shortlisted the roads that we prefer. And then the moment we walked into the property, all that analysis, all that planning, rational thinking, all that research and hard data flies out the window, doesn't it? And somehow we just know it's the house for us. Yeah, it's really basic, it's innate, intuitive. We know I could be happy here. This could be my home. My family could grow up here. It's a deep, instinctive, fundamentally emotional response that leads directly to us taking on a monumental debt over a period of a quarter of a century or more. An enormous long-term commitment in a world that is frankly full of uncertainties. It's mad, isn't it? But it's not entirely dissimilar to taking out a student loan today. It's the same thing. The truth is that we don't buy houses or choose life partners based upon performance stats or data sets. So why on earth should we be surprised to hear that students and parents are just as instinctive and emotional when they select a university? And I think that is genuinely exciting. As marketeers, the truth that we are fundamentally emotional creatures with instinctive, irrepressible, almost primordial desires should excite us. Why? Because if we're involved in shaping, as these guys are, the reputation, the brand, the experience of visiting or attending or graduating from our university, then we know we can't afford to rely upon the stats. Our goal can't be restricted to communicating information, the hard data. We know we have to make an emotional connection with our audiences. We've got to deliver effectively a brand experience, is the way that I would put it. We need to tell stories and paint a picture of what it will feel like to belong in this place, to be part of it. And increasingly, we need to do that online as well as in person and in print. We've got to create some sort of visceral, innate connection that bypasses the cerebellum, the thing that thinks inside us, and goes straight to the limbic system. That's the really deep cortex of your brain, the most primitive part where our decisions and behaviours are ruled by powerful emotions like love and desire, hope and fear, belonging and status. That is where the action is. We need to ensure that the experience of visiting, of studying at, or graduating from our university, physically or digitally, makes an irresistible emotional connection with our audiences, because it is emotion, not reason, that drives decision making. My name is Ollie Leggett. I'm the founder and managing director of IE, an award-winning brand and digital experience agency. On the brand side of the business, we help our charity, health and particularly education clients to engage with their audiences, increasing their impact and reach through brand research, messaging, visual identity, campaigns and behaviour change. And then on the digital side, that includes consultancy and delivery. We basically deliver websites, web apps, bespoke systems, immersive interactive games. But today, I am delighted to be joined by three of your peers. All three are experienced industry specialists with deep, specific expertise in an aspect of what I would call the student life cycle. Yeah? All three are immersed in the dark art of university reputation enhancement. And first up is going to be Claire O'Neill. I won't ask you to get up quite yet, Claire, but Claire her work focuses on pre-entry student engagement. As the Education Outreach Manager for the Houses of Parliament, she created a UK-wide education outreach programme And then today she heads up the Southern Universities Network at the University of Southampton, tasked with increasing the number of young people progressing to higher education from disadvantaged backgrounds. And IE has worked with her over the past couple of years creating interactive digital engagement tools to help her achieve that goal. Now, before Claire kicks off, I'm going to introduce some interactivity into the session by giving each and every one of you a fictional budget of £100,000 to spend during this session. And you're going to invest that money across these three. My three guests are going to pitch to you in turn, arguing for the importance of their focal area and its contribution to the long-term benefit and the life of the university. And then at the end, I'll give you this URL again, but by all means type it in now. It'll ask just for authentication purposes for your email address, but other than that, it's just putting in three numbers. And you're going to carve that budget up between the three of them, allocating resource proportionately to wherever you think will deliver the highest return for the university. Okay, before we close, I will reveal the results, obviously, but first up, put your hands together, please, while she comes up, Claire O'Neill.
So you can tell from my background that I like easy targets, engaging young people in politics and then straight into higher education. I like an easy job. So first of all, why outreach? Why is this an important part of getting students coming into university? Now, this quotation here is from the Higher Education Policy Institute. It highlights here that you're looking at student population, you're looking at ability, so the qualifications that they're gaining, enabling to access level 4 qualifications, and also the willingness. Now, if you measure that against the fact that we know that we've got a declining population of 18, 19-year-olds over the next sort of 4 years, by 2020 to 21, they think there's anywhere between 25,000 to 55,000 less young people available to get into university, and bearing in mind that this research paper was written before Brexit. So those numbers I've got from there doesn't actually take into account that as well. You've also got curriculum reforms. We've had curriculum reforms with GCSEs. We've also had them with A-levels. And again, that is in a fluctuating market that's happening over the next sort of 2 to 3 years. We're not really going to see students who've gone through this whole new process of GCSEs and A-levels up until sort of 2021 as well. So obviously that has an impact of the number of students potentially who are gaining the qualifications, because any curriculum change does impact on that. And then putting that against also the willingness of the population to go. So as Ollie has already mentioned, we've got tuition fees. Now we at Southampton have an outreach programme that goes from primary school, but we are using tracking evaluation from year 7. And as part of that, we're looking at attitudes towards higher education and barriers. And the 11 and 12-year-olds are identifying cost as the main barrier to them entering higher education. If you went and said to them, how much does your university cost? How do you go about paying it back? They won't be able to tell you the details, but they are aware, because of the heavy media presence and the newspaper stories that we're getting, that universities cost. And they're already thinking at 11, this might be something that I cannot afford to go and do. And actually just today I was reading in the paper today, there is a very helpful news story saying that if you don't go to university, it doesn't matter, because look at these jobs you can get and how high paid they are without any degrees as well. And so you've got that sort of narrative in the media that these young people and their families especially are reading all the time. So why outreach? Well, if you're not doing outreach, how are you going to reach these young people? And first of all, the first thing I'll say is outreach is not recruitment. Recruitment is your UCAS fairs, your prospectuses, your open days, where actually you've got students who've already made that choice in their mind that university is something that they're exploring. Yes, you might be the thing that tips them over to think, actually, yes, this is amazing, I'm definitely going to go. But they're already open to that opportunity. Otherwise, they wouldn't have requested your prospectus. They wouldn't have come on the open day in the first place. Outreach isn't that. Outreach is looking at those students who really haven't even got university on their radar potentially, or are sort of scared off of it by the stories they see in the press. However, I'm going to completely contradict myself and say that outreach is recruitment, because outreach done well is going to recruit to your university. We know that the most disadvantaged students often go, about 60% of them will go, if they're going on to an HEI, will go to their local HEI. So if you're doing outreach in your local area, you're going to be recruiting students, you're going to be turning students on who have got the ability, but just potentially haven't got the confidence to go on to university. You might then say, well, hold on, what about the other 40%? I'm losing them to a competitor somewhere. Well, yes, hopefully those 40% have got the confidence to maybe leave their local area and attend a university somewhere else. But actually, if everybody is doing outreach well, we're all going to benefit from each other, because you're going to benefit from the 40% another university has worked with and has got the confidence to actually go away and live away from home. And so outreach is very much part of this. It's aspiration. It's actually, not only perhaps higher education might not have even been something they've been considering before. And so you're putting in front of them something of why go to university? What's the purpose of going? Why spend another 3 years in education? What can it lead to? So you're opening up the opportunities that are available to them. I think another key aspect is engagement with the fact that the curriculum, especially with the curriculum reforms in recent years, you're looking at a curriculum in schools that's very restricted. It's a lot of rote learning, there's a lot of examinations. It's completely different to the university experience and how students live at university. And if you're not engaging them and showing them that actually this extra 3 years is not an extra 3 years of school or what the education they're experiencing at that period in their time, it's actually something completely different. And actually that can be the spark that I think, honestly, actually this is something where I can see not only is it potentially going to get me to a career, but it's something that actually is going to be really interesting that I can engage with. Information is a really important thing, and I think again this is where the blurred line can be between recruitment and outreach, that people get very focused on, we've got to go in and give them perspectives. This is us giving information, this is our outreach, because we're giving us all this information and we've got this young person in front of us and let them tell them absolutely everything there possibly is to know about university in this one point. And that's not what outreach needs to be. It needs to be focused on what that young person is, where they are in their point of their educational career, and also thinking about what are the key messages that you would like them to take away. You can't bombard them with absolutely everything. It's about making sure the information is appropriate at the right time. And again, that could be something, you're not telling them everything all at once. It's about actually a drip feed over a period of years, so it's on again, so it's something that they're not discounting early on. And very much the pre-16 and post-16 engagement is very, very different. It looks completely different for different outreach. So what outreach is about informing students. Now, this is where I perhaps would be, my recruitment colleagues wouldn't be so keen on me saying this, but it is about making the right choices for them at that time. And so I would see outreach being just as successful if a young person turns around and says, actually, after this, experience of outreach, I'm not sure university is right for me now, or it might be right for me down the line, but actually making that active choice that actually that's something not for them. Because actually what you don't want is students coming into university and then dropping out. Not only is that bad for your retention, but actually that negative impact potentially on their peers who are alongside them, their siblings, people from their communities around their home, of somebody dropping out from university because they've not made the right choice. That negative impact can actually reach far further than that one person. So it is about outreach, is about making sure they're completely informed, but they're making the right choices for them at that time. And we're dealing with students who have different needs. So some of them have a career in mind and they need to work out how they're going to get there. Other people know a subject they enjoy and they need to actually understand perhaps the vast variety of subjects out there that they can do. But actually most of what we're dealing with is students who have no idea what they're going to do, and that's why they've perhaps not even considered the university option until they've had some outreach, because they don't know what career they want to do. They're not quite sure what subjects they might go on and study. But the key difference, obviously you might be seeing these people through recruitment as well, but the key difference with outreach is it's the confidence factor. We know from some of the students that we work with, especially around the area that I'm working with now, it's not about the fact they haven't got the ability. These students are getting their level 2, they're getting their GCSEs, they're getting A levels or BTECs equivalents, and then they're dropping off. They're not going on to any level 4 qualification, they're not going into university, they're not going into higher apprenticeships, anything. And a lot of that is not about ability, it's about confidence. And that very much is what outreach is about. And it's interesting that Ollie was saying about that emotional connection. They've got to be able to picture that someone like them, from the area that they live in, from their peer group, could be someone who goes on to university. We know from talking to some of our schools and colleges that they have students who are getting the grades to become the lawyers, the vets, the doctors, things like that, but literally they won't take that step to go on to university because they don't see anyone around them who's made that step. People haven't gone on to university. So without the outreach, and it's not only the students, it's the parents as well, about bringing them onto campus, getting them to meet current students, things like that, so they can actually start feeling comfortable in that environment, that then they'll start considering that step. And just to sort of finish, it's the pre-16, post-16. So post-16 is going to be more recruitment. The students there are much more savvy, that they know that you're after students, and they kind of expect to be given the prospectuses and and having those taster days and things on university. But still, you know, you're still having to sort of show them the transition from GCSE into sort of post-16 study can be very difficult for some students. And then to say to them, hi, do you fancy doing another 3 years of study? That can be really, really difficult for them. So that very much is, again, about that confidence building, about a lot of transition work that we do with outreach. But pre-16, it is completely different. It shouldn't be a heavy marketing activity at all, but it is about giving them that positive interaction early on. We know from research that at 7 years old, students are not only working out which subjects that they really like, but they're also discounting subjects and careers at 7 years old that it will not be for them. Now, I've worked at Portsmouth University, I will now work at Southampton University. We both have primary outreach teams that go out and work with year 5s and year 6s, and that's just absolutely key. The earlier, the better. That it's something, it's a potential for them. It's something, you know, you're not saying to them, oh, you must go to university, otherwise, you know, that's the only route for you at all. But it's actually, again, familiarising themselves, getting them onto campus, working with their parents. And it's also about making sure they're doing the right qualifications to gain it, because again, if you're working with them at year 12 and they're not on the right courses or they're not on the right track to gain entry into a university, well, you're too late. You needed to work with them before they were doing their GCSE choices, before they're making those choices at level 3, to make sure that actually they're on the right path, if that's the way they want to go, to be able to access the courses that you have. And it's very much, just to finish off, it's very much about inspiration into aspiration. It's about actually inspiring them about something that this is something that potentially not only could they do, that people like them can do, but it's then about turning that into an aspiration that they can actually work out what the route is for them. And that's why outreach is such a key part of the student life experience.
So next up, I'm going to welcome Lorna Froud. Lorna is an independent consultant. Until recently, she was the Director of Employability at the University of Reading and a past board member of AGCAS. Reading Careers, I think, was the 6th of 10 university careers services that IE has had the privilege of rebranding. And together, she and I are the proud recipients of a Pan-European Gold Transform Award for Best Education Sector Brand 2017. She is a no-nonsense, disruptive risk-taker. That's how I would describe her, with strong views on careers, employability, and all manner of other things. Ladies and gentlemen, Lorna Froud.
Okay, well, I'm Lorna Froud, so I'm missing from here. And I would say that's quite symptomatic of the career service, really, because actually the career service is often the Cinderella service. I didn't coin that. Somebody else coined that from Birkbeck years ago. Dame somebody or other, forgotten her name. Now, can I ask you, most people in here put their hand up and said they went to university, didn't they? How many of you use the career service? Right, okay. See what I mean? So it's really, really important that the career service has its own brand. Now, we've got this employability, and brand. Now, what I've always found in the career services that I've worked in is that the career service brand, let me say careers to you now, not many of you use the career service. If I say careers, what do you think? Give me a few adjectives.
Personality test.
Personality test.
Paper.
Paper? Okay.
Job board.
Job board. Okay.
CV jiggling.
CV jiggling. Okay.
Support.
Okay.
Jobs library.
Jobs library.
Help.
Okay. Something else?
Help.
Help. Okay, that's better. But all of those things were not very exciting, were they? And what I would say is one of the things that has been a problem for me about careers is that careers in universities are the boring brand. But what's different about careers? How many of your universities have the career service in with student services? Right, lots of you. Often in with counselling, in with wellbeing, in with, you know, accommodation, I don't know. Careers is nothing like that. Careers is not a problem-based service. It's something that students need to be doing all the time. And just to illustrate that, I would say that employability matters because a degree is no longer enough. Now, certainly in both universities that I've been head of careers in, is that if you look at it in a normal distribution curve, the students who are in the top sort of 10% on the distribution curve in terms of attainment at university and getting good graduate jobs have walked into that career service from the first day. And one of the statistics that we did when I was at Oxford Brookes University is we looked at, because we have the evidence, we did it also at Reading, of all of the students who had used the career service and then looked at them 1, 2 and 3 years post-graduation. And the students who had used the career service, used the coaching service, come to events, done the professional training programs that we ran, had a placement, were statistically much more likely to be in a graduate job. Now, so when we saw the hands go up here about not many of you using the career service, the evidence that we've got is that actually those students who use the service and engage with it and do stuff all the way through their course actually are more likely statistically to be in a graduate job. Now, I'm not going to stand here and argue about what a graduate job is. I could argue that with David from here to Kingdom Come. A job, a graduate job is one that is deemed by the government to be a graduate job through the destination survey and the learning, the Leo data. I don't like it, you don't like it, but that's what we're working with. So the labour market requires students to have more than a degree. So we're all flogging degrees. We want students to come and do a degree with us, but employers don't really care about that very much. 70% of all graduate jobs are not degree specific, subject specific, but our academics think it is. So that's a big job to do. The economy is really important. That students need to be very, very flexible. They need to be professionally coached, and they need to know that the labour market is complex and difficult, and they need to have the support in order to negotiate that. We've got the government and parents nibbling at our heels all the time, saying this has got to be good value for money. Government wants us to be producing graduates who are contributing to our society and economy. And we need to get them engaging in the whole student experience. Then we've got all this other stuff, league tables, teacher excellence framework, DELI, Leo, all of this stuff is saying to us, your students have got to be doing well in the labour market, or you're not worth the money. So that's the big problem. That's why employability matters. Now, the thing is, despite all that stuff, university career services offer a huge, huge range of support. Now, quite a lot of the people I've worked with across the piece in the universities I've worked in don't know what the career service does. They think we sit there waiting for a student to walk in and say, hello, I'll do a bit of fiddling around with your CV and make it look lovely. Now, we do that, but what we do is professional coaching. Now, if you want to employ me or any of the team that I had at Reading, privately, we would be charging you £500 a day for the work that we did, whether it's psychometric testing or whether it's helping you to market yourself. Now, students that understand that that's what it's going to cost them when they leave, use the services. We have professional mentoring programs, we manage placement programs, we work extensively with employers. So your career services are big marketing teams. We have to market the institution to employers, and we have to find a way of flogging our students to them. So your career service is actually quite a big marketing team doing quite a big marketing job, but often nowhere near the marketing department. So some of the things that we do in my previous team, we had a big alumni mentoring project. It's now permanent. It was funded by the university. We had now about 800 professional alumni mentoring students. And what happened there? Well, those mentors weren't giving money to the university, but they were after they'd been mentoring for a year or two. Because those alumni felt needed, wanted and appreciated by the institution. They liked working with students, and therefore it was bringing income. So the career service was actually contributing to significant income to the university, and significant income, I have to say, from employers. So large numbers of students are unaware of these, so brand is really important. 47% of graduates actually are in non-graduate jobs, and we need to be worrying about that. And that's not always because those graduate level roles aren't out there. It's because those students have left university without talking to anybody about that. They're unaware of the labour market, they don't know how the labour market operates, they don't know how to access it. And if I had £1 for every graduate who came back and said to me, Lorna, if only I'd used this service before I left, and we've all said that actually. Why do university staff are unaware of these services, or how and when students should access them? Careers to students is boring, nagging, scary, the future, and I don't want to know about it now. But actually, We need to have more than that 10 and 15% at the end of that normal distribution curve moving it into that area. Okay. Key drivers for Reading. There were all these things about 5 elements. We wanted to be very explicit about Reading's employability aspirations. We needed to make employability everybody's business in the university, including academics, marketing, recruitment, and alumni. And one of the things we had to do was really increase the visibility of the career service, and we didn't want it to be boring. So that's why we went to IE. We've got 3 difficult audiences that we're working with. I've taken this from Chris Phillips from GTI, who David will know. Students, fickle, no attention span, no loyalty, demanding, ever-changing, difficult to understand. Employers, impressionable, naive, ever-changing, difficult to understand. The university, irrational, bottom line driven, uncomprehending, totally incomprehensible. So the career service has a very difficult job with these groups of people. And we're the only part of the university that's dealing with all of these. So this was what we did. We started this phase. We had brought everybody on board to talk about it. I led it. But one of the things in the restructure that came out, and one of the things I was most concerned with, was our brand as a career service. The university had spent lots of money on rebranding, but it wasn't talking to the current students. All of the branding was around recruitment. So there's stuff all over the university about Reading being limitless and all sorts of stuff. But it wasn't talking to the thousands of students on the campus. It was all there for open days. So we needed to be distinctive. And this was the sort of stuff that we came up with. So we started with a very clear, we were using the same colour palette as the university, but we had a distressed font, and we had these rather nice quirky images that went with it. So we ended up with a brand, an image that students could recognise everywhere. And we had 2-word calls to action, because what we wanted to do was for students to see it and to say, I've got to do that and I've got to do it now. Anyway, I'm just going to... We employed, as part of the service, because we knew peer-to-peer communication really important with students. They don't want to hear stuff from me. So we employed a group of 15 to 20 students who worked with us, and they were paid employees of the career service, and they had these T-shirts, and everybody saw them and knew who they were. Just ask, fly free, we had carrier bags, we've got umbrellas. So people love the umbrella. So we've got all staff in the university. Can I have an umbrella? Yes, you can. It'll cost you £8. It's free to students, but £8 to you. So everybody around Reading now, you've got an umbrella when it rains. So it's fabulous when it rains. This is what the website looks like. So we've continued with these sort of images. Skill up. You can see Transform Awards there. Explore your options. Grow your experience. Compete for success. Skill up. So this was the look, and students loved it. So now the students want to buy the T-shirts, we're giving the T-shirts away, so everybody knows the career service. So the access of the career service by students went up by about 40%. Hurrah!
Fantastic, Lorna, thank you.
That's why we need Hamilton.
That was great. And then last to pitch for a slice of your £100,000 is David Williams. He's a regular speaker at Case, already got a couple of other gigs in the programme. David is the head of Alumni and Supporter Engagement at Durham University. And I should credit him for the title of our session. He heard me speak at Case last year, and a fascinating discussion sort of carried on after that around this idea of a holy trinity of university reputation management, a perfect world in which the 3 pillars of that sort of pre-engagement piece, employability, and the oft-neglected alumni relations piece are all in perfect balance. So over to you, David.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you for coming very much. My name's Dave Williams. I work for Durham University. I'm fascinated by alumni relations and graduate outcomes. And to my mind, alumni are the secret brand of the university. And I'm going to just talk to you about how you might go about thinking about how you activate that brand. And I'm not a marketer. It's interesting because Ollie's worked with the two other people on the panel. in terms of branding the university to potential applicants, branding a service internally. But I'm not aware that anybody in the UK works on an alumni brand. So it's kind of interesting. So I'm kind of slightly separate to this. But I think alumni branding is the future, or the alumni as the secret brand of the university is the future. So first thing I'm going to say, I'm not a marketer, but this strikes me that this is really university branding in the UK, is that they all do research, they all do education, and they all do some aspect of student experience of some kind, and then they stick a logo on it and tell the world about those three things. And actually, the people who understand the institution are the alumni. And I disagree with Ollie on this as well. They know why they went there. As a 17 or 18-year-old, they know why they chose that subject and that institution. I'm not saying everybody does, but I think many of you will recall what your drivers were. And it's likely to be the first independent decision that you make as a young adult. The first concretisation of who you are. So it's a huge moment. And they know how that decision played out on the trajectory of their lives. So their career, their success, their friendship groups, their peer group, their lifelong community. So the question is, in alumni relations, you do events, you do magazines, and you do all that kind of stuff. But the question is, what are they saying about your institution? Have those choices that they made been vindicated? Has the promise played out across their lives? And to me, this is why alumni relations is so exciting, because you're dealing with the effect of that choice across a whole lifetime. And also because no one else cares. The alumni relations is enormously exciting. I work in the development office. I'm given a budget, I've got a team of people, and fundamentally, the higher-ups care about fundraising. The fundraisers care about fundraising. No one cares about alumni relations. And so you can get on with doing some really exciting work. And you have this audience of 100,000, in Durham's case, 110,000 connected alumni that know what the brand is. They're the ones who understand the brand. So, and it's really difficult. I mean, again, I have to preface this by saying I'm not a marketer, but it's actually really difficult to brand a university in the UK. Branding is inimical to the fundamental of what a university is about, which is that academics come at the world from a wholly different approach to information than non-academics. To them, it's about intellect and evidence. It's not about emotion and the strategic creation of impressions or collation of experience. So, alumni relations is a really exciting place to be because you have command of the brand of the university. And you probably some of you were at the plenary sessions yesterday and today, where the guy from Harvard was talking about the actualization of the alumni community, and Sue Cunningham was talking about what alumni can do to advocate the higher education sector and the institution, and Alistair Jarvis, Universities UK, was saying much the same. And I thought what I wanted to do, but they didn't really tell you how. So what I wanted to do was give you some intellectual tools to kind of start thinking about this. And this report, Great Jobs, Great Lives, and it's a great title. It absolutely sums up the promise of going to higher education. So this is a report that was published in 2014 and 2015 by Gallup Purdue, and it's really short. It's like 12 pages. It's not one of those 100-page kind of things. But what it gives you is the intellectual construction that will allow you to think about what it is about the institution and how it played out across the lives of your alumni. So it's got some really interesting stuff in it, which is, firstly, it doesn't matter what institution you went to, it's about the experiences you had there. And there are 6 experiences, sorry, 5, I'm overcounting. There are 5 experiences that you can have at a university that if you get them, or if you get a number of them, they will play out positively across your life. And the 5 are, I'll just read them out because they're easy, it's easy to find online. My professors cared about me as a person. Now we can all remember those teachers or lecturers who cared about us as a person and their effect on us. At least one professor made you excited about learning. It's huge. Again, you'll remember the name of that person and why that mattered to you. If you were extremely active in extracurricular activities and organisations while attending. If you held a leadership position in a club, organisation or student government, fraternity, sorority, athletic team, and it's an American report. Durham is really good on those 2 things because the colleges create an opportunity for leadership among the student body. And then if you had a paid job or internship. So if any or all of those things happen to you, you are much more likely to have had what you perceive to be a successful life filled with well-being. And what I like about this report is it not only tells you what experiences people had to have had at university to view that experience positively, but also the report is not much interested in salary outcomes and ROI, which is the bane of everything that we do. So again, so it divides up the effect of a higher education institution across different types of well-being, liking what you do, having good relationships and love, financial well-being. I think this is underrated, actually, love, in terms of university experience. It tends to be the place where people find their partners. And I think that is part of an alumni experience, because you go through life with your partner, and you probably go through life with other couples who met at the same time at the same institution. I know there's someone here, I'm not going to call them back, but... and then financial, and are you involved in your community, are you feeling healthy? And so there's a correlation between those experiences you had at university and your positive view of the effect of that university on your life, and whether or not your life is lived positively. So this provides a really useful intellectual framework to start thinking about alumni relations as alumni being brand ambassadors of your institution. Why are they advocating? Why do they love the place? And why are they advocating for it? And why will they support it? So what can you kind of do? So we're at the very beginning of this for various reasons at Durham, but I think as a sector, we're also right at the beginning of this, because all those calls in the plenary sessions were really to solve this question, is how do you get those people to advocate for higher education and the institution? So these are the things that I'm working on with my team, or coming up with. First of all, we will always fail. The university experience is a powerful change in your intellectual, social, potential, emotional being. It's a huge moment, and you will fail to represent that adequately to your community. Not that you shouldn't try really hard, but you've got to accept. It's like your wedding anniversary. You're always going to fail to sum up your marriage in a small gift or the choice of a restaurant. Secondly, what are they actually saying about the institution? So you ask them, you go out and survey them, create opportunities to poll them, and find out what they actually think about the institution. And then listen to them. When you're at alumni events, you say, well, what do you remember? When did you choose? Why did you choose? And you listen to those answers will begin to make sense in terms of the alumni experience of their brand. This is key. Can you bring those 2 things together? Does what they are saying match the university strategy? We've just had a strategy published, we've just done a survey, so we're currently bringing these 2 things together. The university strategy, universities love strategy, so they write it down. They hate brand, but they love strategy. So you can take the strategy, and if alumni are saying stuff that support the strategy, you are in gravy if you can bring those 2 together. I'm going to come to that the last one now, which is universities are really tricky places when you're dealing with the hearts and souls of individuals and why they went there and their relationship with the institution and the institution itself. You're dealing with the brand, and in alumni relations you're actually actualising the brand. So you've got to move really carefully, and you've got to consult all the way through, because Marcoms look after the brand, but what they generally do is look after the logo. And then finally, sorry, you're all marketing people, sorry. I shouldn't be rude. Finally, absolutely, can you demonstrate the impact of the institution on how it's played out across lives? This is the value of alumni data, really. LinkedIn has it, the government has it, we should have it. We should have this data not for prospect research purposes, but because we actually want to know why our alumni were successful, how our alumni were successful in their lives. So that's kind of my kind of framework for making things happen. This requires massive amounts of investment. And I think if Harvard stand up and say, what did he say? He said it's an underrepresented group. Alumni, you think about Harvard, the amount of alumni relations and development spent on by Harvard, then you can see how much is going to need to go into alumni relations if we are going to actualise this group.
Great.
So, thank you very much.
My thanks to Claire, Lorna and David. Now is the time to spend your budget. Please remember you've got £100,000 in total. If you can just log into that URL, and then I'll give you some instant feedback as to who's voted for whom and what budgets they're left with. Choices, obviously, you could give all of them to one, or you could split it 3 ways, which is fantastic, £33,000 each. That would allow you £1,000 to spend during your break at Case on sort of snacks and things, which would be obviously very useful, or not. Whilst you're thinking and tapping away, I'm going to ask one question of these 3. Anything that you can give to the audience in terms of a practical, concrete step that you have taken, something that you have done in your university that you think has significantly enhanced the university's reputation?
Well, we've just realised over the last year how many parents recommend the institution, Durham University, to their children or to the young people in their lives. And the stats, we did a survey in October last year. I'm not very bad at recording stats off the top of my head, but about 20% of Durham alumni who answered the survey have a relative who is a Durham alum. And then I went to see the open day people. And Durham's like that. Durham's a very intense student experience. You either love it or you hate it. If you love it, you love it, and then you recommend it to other people. And I went to see the open day people, and I said, how many people coming to the open days do you think are alumni? And she said something between 15 and 25%.
Wow.
We do nothing for those people. They're coming to our institution with their children. Some of them met there and married, and they're bringing their children back. We do nothing. They don't get any benefit. We don't even hold an event. So that's something we're doing for the first time this year. We're going to hold an event.
Great.
To welcome them and see what they say about the choices they're helping their children make.
Great, thank you, Claire.
And actually, I was going to say it's parents as well, because I think often they are a neglected group, and often there's also an assumed knowledge that they have about university. So they tail along on open days. They are aware of the UCAS process, but obviously now it's all electronic. They don't see any of those offers coming through, and they can feel quite helpless as part of that. And one of the things we introduced at Southampton, and the first year I had 16 parents turn up. The next year I had 80. The third year I had 400 and 100 on a waiting list, and a third of those were first generation university, so they had never been to university before. And it was an impartial parenting event held on the campus, so we're breaking down barriers of getting them onto university campus, but actually explaining to them the higher education process about what their young person is going through, how they can support them through that, actually terminology, really breaking it down. And when we were asking them, how did you find out about us? Because I went from 16 to 400, I needed a bigger lecture theatre, that was brilliant. And they said, actually, we had other parents who'd come last year, and they really enjoyed it, and they said it was really impartial. You weren't trying to just throw stuff down about how amazing Southampton University was, or
Great.
handing out prospectuses. It was just actually a genuinely really useful evening, and that's why we came. And I think that's where the thing I'm saying about recruitment and outreach actually can be a very powerful recruitment thing if it's done well, because it's not all about handing out the prospectus and that actually it's having a positive experience with your staff on your campus, feeling like that you're actually engaging with them because you actually just want to inform them, rather than going, I'm only talking to you because I'm trying to sell something.
That's great,
think,
thank
yeah.
you. I'll stop you there. Fantastic. Lorna, do you want to say something quickly?
Yes, employability is everybody's business. It's important to the institution, so broadening the service out to 500 or 600 alumni, professionally mentoring students, recruiting students to work with the careers team, not leaving it to 6, 7, 8, 9 professional careers coaches in that service. The alumni and the current students were fantastic in training, supporting and encouraging the student body to engage with us and the university.
A last question before we announce the results? Yes, thank you.
I'm Leah from the University of Manchester. I just wanted to ask David about getting alumni talking about your university. How do you make sure that they are talking about your university and what it is in today rather than when they graduated?
I don't know the answer to that. I think we have to go out to alumni and say, this is what we want you. If you're going to advocate, this is what, if you're going to become one of our advocates, this is a piece of comms to you about us today. I'm not as sure as my colleagues in marketing that it matters. I give my 17-year-old son loads of advice. I'm sure he rolls his eyes at a lot of it. They know it's old-fashioned. They know it's experience from the distant past. Has the fundamentals of the institution changed? Not really. So I'm kind of less concerned about that than others are.
Okay, final announcement then. So pre-engagement, Claire, 32% of the vote. Careers, employability, student experience, Lorna, 33% of the vote.
bad.
Very
Not
close.
bad.
And winning, alumni relations, David, 39%. Great. Thank you all for coming along today. Do follow David and I. I'm speaking at other things tomorrow, and do pop into the IE stand. Many thanks for your time. Enjoy your day.